Alright, hello YouTube viewers, hope you're all doing good. Welcome to this video. I'm Venkat and this is just me an open source channel. Right, in this video let's see code pipeline similar to what we saw in the previous video. So I'm basically using the same notes from my previous video. So this is what we did in our previous video. So we had a pipeline, two-stage pipeline, a very simple pipeline example. So there's a source stage that checks out the source from AWS Code Commit repository, and then we have a deploy stage using CodeDeploy service to deploy the sample application onto an EC2 instance. So that's what we saw in our previous video. So what's different in this video is instead of using AWS Code Commit, we are going to be using AWS S3 as the application repository. So you write code, you package your application, you zip it, and then you upload it to S3, and then the pipeline will get triggered automatically using CloudWatch alarm, because whenever you upload a new version to S3, a CloudWatch event will generate, and then the pipeline will get triggered automatically, and it goes through the source which checks out your application from the S3, and then deploy stage that deploys your application in an EC2 instance. So that's what we are going to see. The only difference in this video to the previous video was instead of using code commit, we're going to see how it's going to work with AWS S3. So most of the concepts, most of the steps that I'm going to do in this video are exactly the same like what we did in our previous video. So to quickly recap, so we need an EC2 instance. We are going to attach an EC2 instance role, and we will be installing CodeDeploy agent on our EC2 instance. And we're going to be using CodeDeploy, and we need a service role for CodeDeploy. The role will allow CodeDeploy to deploy the application to the EC2 instances. And then CodePipeline, again, we will be creating a service role for pipeline to work on the pipeline stuff. So we have three service roles. I mean, for CodePipeline, a service role. For CodeDeploy, we have a service role. And for EC2 instance, we have an instance role. So all these are important. And instead of code commit, we will be looking at Amazon S3. So okay. Let me close this and open up my web browser. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to log into my Amazon management console. So I'm logging in as the admin user, not using the root account. So I'm going to go to S3. The first step is to create an S3 bucket. So go ahead and click create bucket. The bucket name, whatever you want, but it has to be a unique bucket name. So let me say, what demo are we doing? AWS Code Pipeline demo. Okay, so AWS Code Pipeline demo, just because it needs to be unique, I'm just giving some random names. Region, so make sure you select the region where you have your EC2 instance. So this one, the bucket and the EC2 instance where your application has to be deployed, has to be in the same region. Okay, and click next. And this one is important, versioning. So because we are going to use this as a repository, we need to check this one. Keep all versions of an object in the same bucket. All right, click next, and then click next, create bucket. All right, so our bucket is now ready. AWS Code Pipeline demo, just me. So now we are going to download a sample application provided by AWS, and then we are going to upload that into our AWS bucket we just created. Okay, so for that I'm going to go to my GitHub repository to AWS. I'll put a link to this URL in the description. Pipeline demo and quick reference. So this is just for my convenience. I've got some quick reference here. So that's the sample application we are going to use in this case. And well, if you want to follow this one, there is AWS Code Pipeline Tutorial. If you search for AWS Code Pipeline Tutorial, there it is. So in the previous video, we were doing this one, create a simple pipeline code commit repository. And in this video, I'm actually following this one, create a simple pipeline using Amazon S3 bucket. But I'm not going to exactly follow this documentation because this is written for a Windows installation, for a Windows instance. So the sample application will be deployed in an Windows EC2 instance, but I'm going to be using a Linux EC2 instance. So, but basically I'm following all these steps, but I'm deploying on a Linux instance. All right, so if you want, you can go through this document here. All right, so let me download the sample application, and let's open up the terminal, cd to downloads, wget. Actually, I've copied that, paste that. Okay, so we have our sample application, sample app linux.zip. Okay, so now let's go ahead and upload that to our Amazon S3 bucket. So in here, click on the bucket and click upload, add files. Where is it? Home, downloads, sample app Linux. So you don't need to extract it, so you have to upload your application as a zip file, right? So sample app underscore linux.zip and upload that file. Next, go with all the default options, upload. Okay, so we have our sample application now. Okay, so one thing is done. And now we are going to create an EC2 Linux instance, and before that we need to create an instance role for that. So let's go to IAM, and in IAM click on the roles and click create role. EC2, click next permission, and then search for CodeDeploy. Amazon EC2 role for AWS Codepipeline. So select that one. Next tags. If you want, you can attach tag. Review. Create a role name. So I'm going to say EC2 Instance role. Okay, and then click create role. So we've created the role, instance role. So when we create the EC2 instance, we are going to attach this role. So EC2 instance has all the CodeDeploy capabilities, permissions, access permissions, and so on. So we don't have to worry about that. All right, so now we're going to go to EC2 and then create our EC2 instance. So I don't have any EC2 instance running, so I'm going to click launch instance. And I'm going to use Amazon Linux 2. Select, I'm going to go with, let me move my window about. Okay, so I'm going to go with the free tier T2 micro, configure instance details, number of instance, I'm going to leave that as 1. Default VPC, default subnet, auto assign public IP, yes. The important thing to note here is IAM role. So select that one and choose the role that we just created, EC2 instance role. And one other thing we need to do is in the advanced detail here, we need to give the script that's going to install the CodeDeploy agent. So again, in my GitHub repository, I've got the sample code. And if I copy that, so it basically downloads a script and then runs the script. It's going to install the CodeDeploy agent. So whenever the CodeDeploy service pushes some events to your EC2 instance, and the CodeDeploy agent on your EC2 instance will uninstall and install and take care of the local management of your application. So that's the CodeDeploy agent, and this snippet here is the one that installs CodeDeploy agent when you launch your EC2 instance. So I'm going to paste that, and then add storage, go with the default storage, add tag. So this one is very important, because when we create our pipeline, when we create the deployment group, we need to specify which EC2 instance we need our application to be deployed. So that's based on the tag you assign to your instance. So add tag, I'm going to say code pipeline demo, code pipeline demo. Okay, make sure to remember that tag. Configure security group. I'm going to create a new security group, SSH. I'm going to change that to my IP, and I'm also going to add a HTTP rule, because this is the HTTP web application that we are deploying. And again, I'm going to set that to my IP because I'm just going to test it from my machine. Okay, next, review and launch, and then click launch. Choose an existing key pair. If you don't have a key pair, go ahead and create a new key pair, and make sure to download the private key. Because I've already got a key pair, I'm going to choose that one, and I acknowledge launch instance. Instance is launching. Okay, and if I go back to EC2 and look at the running instances, so there's one instance that's coming up, so we have to wait for the instance to be created. Okay, so that's one thing, and I think while it's getting created, we can go ahead and set up our code pipeline and code deploy thing. Okay, let's do that. So for that, I'm going to go to IAM again. So this time, we are going to set up the code deploy agent. For that, we need to create a service role for code deploy. So I'm going to go to roles, create role, and I'm going to choose code deploy and select your use case. Again, I'm going to choose code deploy. Next, permissions, and it has auto selected the code deploy role. Next, tag review, and I'm going to give it a name, code deploy role. Okay, and then click create role. That's done. So now we can go to code deploy, search for code deploy. So there it is, code deploy. Click on that one and go to applications, create application, application name, my demo application, compute platform. So we are going to deploy our application on an EC2 instance. So EC2 on-premise. So that's the one you have to select. Create application, application created. So now we have to create the deployment group. Click create deployment group. Enter a deployment group name. So my demo deployment group. Service role. So this is where you have to fill in the service that you just created. Code deploy role, the one that we just created, and deployment type, whether in place deployment or blue-green deployment, which I explained in my previous video. In place is whenever you push a new version of your application, the code deploy service is going to update your application on your running instance. So that's an in-place upgrade. Blue-green is on the new version of the application, the code pipeline and the code deploy agent will create a new EC2 instance, install your application, and when that application is ready, it will terminate the old instance. So there is no downtime at all. So that's blue-green. So if you have like 5 or 10 replicas or 10 EC2 instances, this will create additional EC2 instances, install the application, and once they are ready, it will terminate the old instances. In place is it won't create new instances, but it will just update the application on the running instances. So depending on your use case, you can select these. Environment configuration, Amazon EC2 instances, and key. So code pipeline demo. So that's the key or the tag that we attach to our EC2 instance. So here, the deployment group is basically saying, what's your deployment group? Where do you want to deploy your application? So I want to deploy my application onto an EC2 instance that has a tag code pipeline demo. So that's what we are doing right now. Okay, so deployment setting, code deploy default all at once, half at a time, or all or one at a time. So if you've got 5 EC2 instances, you can do all at once. So it will update all your EC2 instances at once, or take half at a time and then move to another half once the first half is completed, or just pick one EC2 instance at a time and then do your updates. So I'm going to leave that to all at once because it doesn't make any difference because we are using just one EC2 instance. We're not using load balancer, it's just directly deploying it to the EC2 instance. So I'm going to uncheck that one, create deployment group. Cool, deployment group is now created. So EC2 instance, I'm going to open that in the new tab just to check if it's ready. Running instances, and our EC2 instance is running. That's fine, cool. Okay, so code deploy, the last bit we need to do is create the pipeline. So click on pipelines, create pipeline, give it a name, my first pipeline. New service role, because we haven't got any service role created for the code pipeline, we are allowing the code pipeline, the wizard, to automatically create a service role for us, and that's the role name that it's going to create. Advanced settings, default location, the artifacts. So whenever the code pipeline builds, if you've got any artifacts to store, whether you want to store your artifacts in a default location, or if you've got any custom S3 bucket that you want to store the artifact. So I'm going to leave that to default. Encryption for the S3 bucket, leave that to AWS managed key. Click next. Source provider. So in the previous video we chose AWS code commit. Now we're going to choose Amazon S3. Bucket name is AWS Codepipeline Demo Just Me, and the S3 object key is where it is. Let's go to S3. S3, the object ID is the actual file name itself. So in the S3, click on AWS Codepipeline. So that's the object ID. So let's copy that one. Copy and paste it here. S3 object key. Yep, sample app underscore linux.zip. So that's going to be your object key. AWS Cloud, how do you want to trigger your pipeline? Whether you want CloudWatch to automatically trigger the pipeline whenever change has happened in the S3, or do you want AWS Codepipeline to periodically check S3 whether there's any change or not? So I'm going to leave that to CloudWatch event and then click next. Build provider, I'm going to skip the build stage because we only have two stages, a source and a deploy stage. So skip build stage, skip deploy provider. So we are going to use AWS CodeDeploy, and in my future video I will cover ECS, Elastic Beanstalk and others as well. So for this demo we are using CodeDeploy service to deploy our application. So select CodeDeploy. Application name is my demo application, deployment group my demo deployment group. It will populate the entries automatically based on the application that you've created. Next, and everything looks good. Let's create the pipeline. Okay, so it's going to take a few seconds, and it will automatically start your first pipeline. It's creating the pipeline at the moment with two stages, source stage and the deploy stage. As you can see here, currently the source stage is in progress. So once that's done, it's going to go to the deploy stage and we should be able to see our web application. All right. So yep, source stage completed. Now it's running the deployment stage. So meanwhile, what we can do is go to the EC2, and then I'm going to copy the public DNS name of my EC2 instance so that we can access it in the browser. Alright, so let's wait for the deployment stage to complete. Alright, so deployment stage completed successfully. So now if I open up a browser and access the public DNS name of my EC2 instance, cool, congratulations, this application was deployed using AWS CodeDeploy. That's fantastic. Okay, so now what we are going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal and watch for this page. So I'm going to update the application and upload the new version to the S3 bucket, and this pipeline will get triggered automatically. Okay, so cd to downloads, and in here I've got the sample app linux.zip. So that's the one that I uploaded to S3. So now let's extract it, change the content, zip it again, and then upload it back to S3, and the S3 will trigger a CloudWatch event, which will trigger a code pipeline, and our new application should get deployed on the EC2 instance. Okay, let's verify that. Make directory sample, just call it any directory, cd to samples, and then unzip / sample app linux.zip. Okay, so we've got here, I'm going to change the index.html file. Let's change the congratulations text to wow, you did it. Okay, so that's the only change I'm doing, and let's create an example file, create a sample zip file. So zip, I've got the command zip -r for recursive, and the file name is going to be sample.zip, for example, but we need to change that, and star. Okay, so if I go back, sample.zip. So that's the zip file that we created with the updated code. But if you want to update it to, sorry, upload it to S3, it has to be on with the same name. So I'm going to move sample.zip to sample app linux.zip. Okay, so sample app linux.zip, that's containing my updated code. Now let's go ahead and update that to S3. And where is S3? Okay, here. Okay, so on the left browser we've got the code pipeline here, and on here I'm going to upload the new version of our application. Upload, add file, sample app linux, open, upload. Okay, so now it should have triggered the code pipeline. Let's verify it. Let's wait for a while and see if it has triggered the code pipeline. Okay, cool. So now the source stage completed, and it is now running the deploy stage. And once it's complete, we should be able to verify the new version of our application. Let's close that. Wait for the deploy stage to complete. Alright, the deploy stage completed successfully, and if I now go to the sample deployment and refresh the page, yep, there you go. Wow, you did it. So our application, we changed the application, we uploaded the new version of our application to Amazon S3, which automatically triggered the pipeline, which automatically deployed our application to the EC2 instance. So this is continuous deployment using CodePipeline, CodeDeploy, and S3 as your application repository. Alright, so I'm going to, so that's all for this video. I'm going to clean up. If you want to stick around to see how I clean up all the resources that I've deployed in this video, feel free to stick around and watch the video. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends if you really liked it. For any questions, for any issues, please leave me a comment. I should be able to get back to you the earliest I can. Thanks for watching this video today, and feel free to stick around if you want to see how I'm cleaning up this resources that I've deployed in this video. Okay, so the first thing is pipeline. Let's delete the pipeline. Go to pipelines, select the pipeline, delete pipeline, and delete. Enter the word delete and then click delete. So pipeline is gone, and the next thing is applications. So we are going to go into my demo application and then click delete application. So if you just delete the application, it will delete the deployment group as well. Type in delete, so that's deleted. And EC2 instance, let's delete the EC2 instance. Instance state, terminate, yes, terminate. So in the EC2 dashboard, we also need to delete the security group that we created, but it won't let us delete the security group unless the EC2 instance has been completely terminated. So while the EC2 instance is getting terminated, let's go ahead and delete the roles and the policies that we created for this demo. So go to IAM, and then click on roles. So we have 8 roles, and the ones that we created for this video are this one, my first pipeline, CodeDeploy role, my first pipeline, EC2 instance role. Those are the 4 roles that got created. Yes, delete. Okay, so that's deleted, and there is also policies that might have been automatically created. Filter policies, customer managed policy. Yeah, those are the 2 ones. Select policy action, delete, delete. And the last one, select and click policy actions and click delete, delete. And okay, so we've done that one, and let's go back to S3 because we need to delete our S3 bucket as well. So it has created 2 S3 buckets. So one for so that's the one that we created for uploading our application, and this bucket is the one that got automatically created to store the artifacts and so on. So let's delete that one. Delete. Copy the bucket name just for the confirmation. Control C, Control V, confirm. That's done. and delete the other bucket as well. Copy the bucket name, Control C, Control V, confirm. Okay, so all our buckets are gone. EC2 is completely terminated, and now if I go to security group, that's the one that we created. Action, delete security group. Yes, delete. Okay, so EC2 dashboard, we don't have anything running. We've deleted the roles, EC2 instances, S3 bucket, IAM policies, and everything. I think that's it. We have deleted all the resources that we used in this deployment, sorry, this demo. All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time watching this video. I will see you all in another exciting video. Bye bye.